just going to take this swatch out. It's going to be a pain because of the mohair, so I'm going to stick it in the freezer. Hello, fiber friends. I have a traditional podcast episode for you today, full of updates on my projects, yarn acquisitions, and even a bit of sewing. So if that sounds like it will be of interest to you, I hope you'll stick around. Hello again, fiber friends. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Kristen, and today I have a pretty typical podcast episode for you. I'm going to be sharing one finished object, some whips, some yarn, even a little bit of sewing. I am very happy to report that it feels like fall, early fall, in Maryland today. And it has all this week. It is very exciting. The kids have gone back to school. The temperature has not gotten above 80 degrees, I don't think, at all this week. I am wearing some alpaca. So what I'm wearing today is my Amankai tee. This is a pattern available on Ravelry and PayHip, and my shop links are in the description box down below. So it is just a light, breezy, fingering weight t-shirt, and it is perfect for today's weather. So with all of this fallish weather, I have definitely been getting in a fall mood. So let's look at some of the whips and finished objects. So my finished object is my last summery project, and that is my Sailor Swift top. So I did manage to finish it. I also had been working on a pie camisole, which I briefly considered trying to power through, and then I gave up. But this one I did finish. This is my last summer knit. You can see I honestly did not do a great job with getting my stripes contiguous, but it's fine. So I'm not wearing this today because I have already worn it a couple of times and it needs to be washed and reblocked a bit. So I knit this with the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. I used most of that was me answering a call from the school nurse on today, the third day of school. My child is fine. He was putting on quite a show this morning, and he told the nurse that he threw up this morning, which he did not. So he's going to be in big trouble. Anyway, I have already worn this a couple of times, and because I knit it in silk, silk doesn't have a lot of memory, so it just doesn't hold its shape as well, and it really needs to be rewashed. Whereas with sweaters that are made of wool, you can often wear them many times without having to rewash or block them. That's really not the case for this. But it still looks pretty cute, even in need of a wash. I do love the I-cord finish on this. I think it turned out really neat. In case you missed it, I did do a tutorial showing how I joined the I-cord, at the underarms and somewhere back of the neck here, that looks almost seamless. You can check that out if that's something that interests you. So other than the I-cord trim, this is basically just a striped sleeveless top with a little bit of kind of racerback-ish shaping, but not like really pronounced. It doesn't curve in a lot along the upper back. Just slightly. Just enough so that your bra straps stick out, which is kind of annoying. So this did turn out a little bigger than I intended. The pattern recommends negative ease. I didn't want negative ease. I wanted like 0 or a little bit of positive ease. Unfortunately, none of the sizes were going to give me 0 or just a little bit of positive ease. And I don't even remember. I think I knit the size 4. Probably could have gone with the 3. So I did, of course, swatch for this, but swatching with something like silk, it's pretty tricky because just the weight and the pull of the fabric is just not going to be as pronounced in your small swatch as it is in a whole garment. So it did block out a bit bigger than I wanted, but it is still a good size for me. The armholes are a little bit long, and there's not really anything I can do about that without ripping out all the I-cord, which I don't want to do. So I think I'm just going to deal with it. I do wish that the armholes were a little bit closer fitting, but this is a really nice breezy top for summer. So I will pop a photo in here so you can see what it looks like actually being worn. As I said, I have worn this a couple of times. It is very comfortable. The fabric is, I mean, I wouldn't wear like a black bra underneath, but it's not, super see-through or anything. Overall, just a really nice, comfortable fit. So I am happy that I finished this. I think I'll be able to layer this in the fall as well. As I said, we are getting pretty fallish weather here right now, but I do expect that it's just going to end up getting hot again, at least, one more heat wave. But we shall see. So I may be able to wear it then. But I do also think it will make a nice layering piece for the fall. So my Sailor Swift is done. I did finish one more summer project. How did I do on my summer projects? I finished the Sailor Swift. I finished my Darjeeling top. I also finished this other sleeveless top that I kind of hacked from my Amankai pattern, and that's here. So overall, 3 finished tops for summer. I think that is pretty good. And then earlier in the spring, I finished my summer slipover, and it's called summer slipover, but I knit it in wool and cotton from Knit Picks, so it's really not a summer project. I haven't been wearing it because it's, wool, but I think I'll be seeing some more of that in the fall. And it does have summer in the name, so I'm going to count it. So that gives me 4 finished summer projects, which is not too bad, I don't think. So that is it for the finished objects, but I've got lots of whips going. So I will first show you a brand new one, which is that I did cast on my Stromboli. And I have been making pretty good progress. So here is my yarn. So the yarn I'm using for this is the, oh no. Okay, it is the Illimani Sabri, and it is an 85% cotton, 15% alpaca, fingering weight. Stromboli is a pattern from Caitlin Hunter. I am in the middle of the 5th repeat of this lace pattern, and I need to do 8 before I split for the sleeves. Or not the sleeves, the back and front. I swear I know how garments are constructed. So, you all know, bottom up, not most people's favorite way to knit a sweater. There are pros and cons to it, but the big con is that it's very difficult to try on as you go. The pro is that you get to start your project knitting in the round, which tends to go faster. So I was really happy to discover that the patterning is very easy to memorize. So I don't really need to consult with the chart. I do have it printed out, but I don't have to keep checking it, which has made this a very nice and somewhat portable project. The yarn is lovely. As I said, 85% cotton, 15% alpaca. It is very soft. It definitely, I can tell that it has a plant fiber in it. It's not quite, as soft as an all animal fiber, but it is still very soft, and obviously I'm not wearing it, so it's hard to say for sure. But sometimes when you combine alpaca with a plant fiber, so like that's what this garment is as well, even though alpaca is soft, it sticks out from the plying of the yarn, and it can be a little bit prickly, especially when you're contrasting it with, if it's in there with a plant fiber that is very nice and smooth. So alpaca can feel a little prickly occasionally. I'm not noticing that with this. So as I said, this is, let's see, I've probably been working on this for a couple of weeks, perhaps. And as I said, easy to memorize. So I'm able to sort of carry it around and about with me. But it also does require a bit of concentration. So we we have been watching an older show called Bolivar on Netflix, which is about Simon Bolivar. It's entirely in Spanish, which I speak Spanish, but sometimes, I don't catch everything, so I really have to be paying attention to um, the subtitles, which are on the screen in Spanish. So that makes it a little hard for that. And then the other thing we've been watching is Jason Momoa's Chief of War, which I think is on Apple TV Plus or something. And they speak Hawaiian. So I absolutely have to watch that. Like I can't, like there's some English in it, but very little. It's mostly Hawaiian. So I have to be paying attention to the screen, which means this is not a great TV project, at least for our current TV watching. But it is going along pretty quickly. So as I said, I am about halfway through the 5th repeat and I need 8 before the split. And I haven't weighed this. It looks like I'm, I don't know, a third of the way, maybe a little bit more through the first skein, and I do have 2 skeins. So that is my sort of fall transition-y project. Hopefully I get it done in September, and then I can be wearing it when it's, in the 70-ish degrees, low humidity, when it's not really cool enough for sweaters yet. So that is my newest cast on. I've also been making some progress on this little sweater for my new niece. So I had, the body of this has already been blocked. I had blocked it. I had started the sleeve. No, I had finished the body, started the sleeve, was having trouble picking up for the sleeve. So I decided I wanted to block the body first to help get the dimensions of the armhole right. I did that, and it helped, but I picked up the sleeve for whatever size I'm knitting, which I think is the 6 months, and it was kind of ballooning out at the top. It was too many stitches. So after going back and forth about whether I wanted to keep that or not, I ripped the sleeve out and picked up the number of stitches for the smaller size, which is just four fewer stitches. And now we are moving along. So I have 1 sleeve finished. These are here to mark where I'm going to put some ties. But they're also kind of obscuring this cute little pleat, box pleat that is in there. And you can see there's this is not blocked, so it's not as pronounced as the hem, but we've got these cute little scallops on the sleeve. So this is the Crossandra Mini. I am knitting this in a discontinued Knit Picks yarn that is a blend of alpaca and cotton. Not that it matters because they don't sell this anymore, but this is Kindred, which is a DK weight. The color is Tea Cake, and it is a 68% baby alpaca, 32% Pima cotton. This is very lovely and soft, and I love, you can see like a little bit of marling in the yarn because of the 2 different fibers and the way they take the dye. So 1 sleeve done. That means I just got 1 more sleeve and a collar, and then some little I-cord ties get attached where these 2 markers are. So this is moving along. The baby is about 6 weeks old now, but I haven't really been in a rush because it's probably not going to be, this is not going to be wearable until, although our weather has been cool, not quite cool enough for something that's mostly alpaca. So this is really going to be more of like an October sweater, but it is looking really cute. The only annoying thing about the sleeves and the body is that they're worked in the round and they're garter stitch, which means normally when you're working in the round, things speed up, but they're not speeding up because garter stitch is not faster in the round. But it is just adorable. I cannot wait to see how cute it is when it is all finished and blocked. So I think I have used one ball of the yarn and now this, and that may be all I need is 2 balls. And as I said, I believe I'm doing the 6-month size, but apparently with 3-month size sleeves. So the pattern is really cute. Scallops are shaped with short rows. Everything is very well written. It's mostly garter stitch, so there's not a whole lot going on. So you do start by working the back piece, and then picking up over the top and down to the front. Really just baby stuff is so cute. So hoping to have that done within another week or two, and then we'll be ready for baby. And then the other thing I've really been working on is that I did pull out all of the sweaters that I put on hold when the weather turned warm. And that's like 4 sweaters. So I've been working a little bit on the Calm Down cardigan, but it doesn't really look like much. So I'm not going to bother to show you that. But this actually I put on hold even, am I in the middle of a row? Of course, why wouldn't I be in the middle of a row, for God's sake? All right, I'll just have to deal with it. This is actually something I had kind of forgotten about. So I didn't really put it on hold in the spring. It was a lot of steps and I was getting annoyed with it. So this is my reading cardigan. This is a pattern from Brooklyn Tweed that is worked in an all over shaker rib. So it's just, I like Brooklyn Tweed patterns, but I don't necessarily care for the way that they're written. And they tend to be very involved. So you start by knitting like this piece here, this rectangle, and this is like the fold line for the collar. And then you pick up all the way around and start the raglan shaping. There's like a million different markers, and it's like, work the raglan increases for the body every 4 rounds this many times, and then every 8 rounds this many times, and work the raglan increases for the sleeves every 8 rounds this many times, and every 4. I feel like there are maybe simpler ways to write it out. Anyway, so when I got to the part where I needed to set up all the raglan shaping and start working it, I was like, ugh, it's too much, and I just put it aside and I forgot about it. But then I discovered it, and I have been making pretty good progress. So shaker rib is sort of a half brioche kind of stitch, where, so for a typical brioche worked flat, you work every row twice, and on your first pass you slip all the purls, and on your second pass you slip all, and we don't have any of that going on here. So on the right side we are doing the brioche stitches, but on the wrong side, not so much. And I have been judiciously marking my increases for the raglan lines and then the sleeve increases, which look very fun. Stop looking at my face. And then with all this other stuff going on, then you throw in a neckline increase here, which is this marker. So there's a lot going on. I will say, normally when I am doing any project, I don't necessarily mark my increases like this. It's fine if you do. I just don't find I need to, because it's relatively easy to count rows, but because this is in the half shaker rib, it's trickier. So I figured I would just put the markers in. And you can get these, like, what are they, light bulb stitch markers. Like I bought a pack of like 500 on Amazon years ago, and even for like, I don't know, $8 or something. And even though I'm constantly losing them, there's so many that I still have plenty. So that is a good use for that. So this has become a little bit more of a TV project. So twice a week, my husband plays Dungeons and Dragons online. And I just get into my bed and watch, Normally I would be watching my comfort show, which is Jane the Virgin, but it's not on Netflix anymore. It's not streaming anywhere. So I've just been watching whatever I find, and I'm right now watching something about Marco Polo. But this, except for the increase rows, it's relatively straightforward, so it's easier to watch TV. So that is going along somewhat swiftly. It is designed to be oversized, and it's got this big chunky collar, so there are a lot of stitches involved here. I am using Wool Dreamers Moda. This, it doesn't have color names, so the color is 953G. And let's see, this is 100% extra fine merino and manchego, whatever that is. I thought it was cheese, clearly not. So this is like it's got a very rustic texture and not a very, so it's pretty versatile, but it doesn't have like a ton of stitch definition. But since the yarn kind of blooms a lot, it really works at some different gauges. So the recommended needle is a US 7 to 9, which would make this a worsted weight. I think it's a little bit thinner than a typical worsted weight, but again, because of all the blooming, it works well at, I think you could probably use it for a DK or even up to an Aran weight. So I got this a couple years ago to design something that I gave up on. So I've got 3 more balls in here, and then I have like most of the front of a sweater I can rip out if needed. Because there's still quite a lot of this left to go. But I am really enjoying it, and I like how it's turning out. It's going to be just a really cozy sweater when it's done. All right, and I think that is all of the whips I have to tell you about. However, I will throw in that I'm about to swatch and potentially cast on for a new project. So if you watched my most recent video, which was a review of slipover and sweater vest patterns, I really loved the Ron Ran vest. And I think I have yarn for it. So the yarn it calls for is Cardiff Cashmere Large, which it says is a bulky weight. The gauge I think in the pattern is 19 stitches over 4 inches, which is really more like a heavy worsted-ish. And so, again, a while back, I swatched with 2 yarns, and they are Kim Dye's yarn, Brioche DK, and it's falling apart, Knit Picks Aloft. And they made this beautiful fabric. And this, swatching on a US 8, I was getting 16 and a half stitches to the inch. So I think this could work for that. I'm going to go down to the US 7 and give it a try. So the Cardiff Cashmere Large, as I said, it says it's a bulky weight. A lot of the people who have knit the vest are using heavy worsted yarns. And I think that's probably because a cashmere yarn is going to be very bloomy. My sense is that a cashmere yarn is going to be kind of fluffy. So maybe when you do your wraps per inch, you're getting like a bulky weight yarn, but it's going to kind of compress when you knit it. I'm not 100% sure. Given that people are using worsted weights, I think holding this DK with this nice fluffy silk mohair, it's going to bloom, and I think it's going to work for that project. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to take this swatch out. It's going to be a pain because of the mohair, so I'm going to stick it in the freezer. And that's it. If you haven't heard that tip before, if you have to frog mohair, putting it in the freezer first can help keep the fibers from sticking together so it's easier. Because I've got 3 skeins of this, and it's how many yards? This is 280 yards. I want to make sure I've got enough for the vest, and I think it would be smarter just to rip out my gauge swatch. We'll see. I think I'm going to, though. So this is this lovely almost solid. Absolutely beautiful. I love this. This colorway is Lady Slipper. So I think I'm going to rip out my swatch. If not, I'm just going to re-swatch and see. And if that works, then that is going to be my next cast on. And that is it for almost whips and finished objects. I am still mostly yarn dieting, but I do have one little acquisition to show you. I got a gift card to Magpie Fibers for Mother's Day, and I finally was able to get up there and get a little treat for myself. So I hadn't been there in a while, and the last time I was there, they obviously had all the Magpie yarns, but they also had some other yarns, like some Sandusgarn, and I'm not sure what else. And now they don't have any of that anymore. So it's just the Magpie yarns. There was maybe a little bit of something else. There was like something from like Feederbrook Farm or something, kind of a spin cycly looking yarn. But that was really it. But they have lots of other stuff in the shop, lots of like notions. They have nail polish to match their yarn colors. They did not have nail polish in my favorite shade of yarn from Magpie, which is Wicked Game. Otherwise, I probably would have bought some. And they've, they've got bags and they've got embroidery and like all kinds of cute stuff. But they just have the Magpie yarns now. That's really neither here nor there. Just setting the scene for you. With my gift card, I decided to get the yarn I would need to make my Winnie top. So that is this pattern. And I did not have anything in my stash. I had one yarn that I thought I might use, but I already have another garment in that same color. I just didn't feel like I needed to. So I got 2 skeins of Swanky DK in this lovely, if the sun would come back, it would probably look better, colorway, which is called Mesa. So let's try that again. There we go. So it is just a lovely, deep, slightly brownish red. The Swanky DK is obviously a DK weight. It is a merino cashmere nylon. Is it? Yeah, 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. And I think this will be lovely for that project. I have not wound it up yet. I really need to do that. But we had, my mother-in-law was visiting last week, and then the kids started school this week, so it's just been busy. And I gotta like set up the ball winder and all that. So I have not wound it up yet. I do need to do that because this is sort of a t-shirt, is something I'm gonna be maybe wearing in October, not so much December. So if I want to wear it, I need to kind of get started with it. I have used the Swanky DK many times, so I'm wondering if I really need to swatch. I can probably just find a project I have already done with the Swanky DK and see what my gauge is. It is a lovely yarn, beautiful. There were a couple of colors there I was considering. The other one, I think the other one was called Sedona, maybe? It was like a dark green gray, but it didn't seem very fallish to me, and I wanted to pick a fallish color, so I went with this one. Of course, they have lots of beautiful colors. But yeah, I need to get started on this, which means I need to wind it. I need to get, I've seen those people that have like a little ball winding station, like permanently set up, but I do not. And the only place really I can set both the Swift and the winder up is my dining room table, which is not super convenient, but there we have it. So that is the only yarn I have gotten because I had a gift card. As you may know, I had been destashing a lot of yarn. I really have quite a limited collection now. If you're interested in any destash yarn or fiber, that link is in the description box. So yeah, nothing else hiding in there. No new acquisitions, but I am thinking I'm plotting some acquisitions. So I don't, for all of the projects, obviously, that I have already on the needles, and some that next week I'm going to be talking about fall knitting plans, all of the things that I have planned, for most of them, I already have yarn. But I would like to do a video where I try a petite knit pattern. I haven't tried one, figure it's about time. can be like a fun video to get into it. I picked out a pattern, and I would also like to use the yarn that she uses. It's Pure Gint. It's a very popular yarn. I think for her patterns, Sandus Garn even has their own like petite knit palette of colors, that she, I guess, uses or came up with or approved. Who knows? So I feel like I want to do like a whole like first time knitting a petite knit pattern, using petite knits, recommended and favorite yarn. So I'm thinking about maybe breaking my yarn diet to get some Pure Gint specifically for that project, with the assumption that I'll earn some money back from YouTube, maybe to cover the cost of that. So we'll see. I'm still looking. I know Jimmy Bean's Wool has Pure Gint, and Wool and Company, which is another yarn shop I really like online, also has Pure Gint. And with all of the stupid tariff crap going on, I don't know if they have them in stock now. I don't know what's going to be happening a month from now. So I'm kind of playing with that idea, but we'll see. I want to make sure that, I'm getting the best price I can. So I may do a little bit more shopping for that, but as just some yarn wish casting. All right, I did want to share a little bit of sewing, which I haven't done in a while. If you're not interested in sewing, you can pop over to the end. Did finish a dress that I had started earlier in the summer that I showed you guys several podcasts back, which is this one. I got a chance to wear it out for a little date night while my mother-in-law was here to watch the kids. Obviously, you can't see in this photo. It also has an open back. So it's not a very practical dress. I've had to use like boob tape, which actually was, it worked surprisingly well and was fairly comfortable. I don't think it's a dress I'm going to be wearing all the time, but I think it is a nice kind of date night dress for the summer. And then the other project I've been working on and recently finished is this lovely summery skirt. So it doesn't look super fancy, but this is sort of the first time that, first of all, it wasn't really a pattern. So it's called the Paris skirt. It was more like a recipe that you can find on a blog, and it's more geared toward little girls. So I made a fair number of changes. The first is that the little girls version has a lot more elastic built into it. So the elastic wraps like almost around to the front, and so I scaled that back a little bit. It does have an elastic in the back, and that's great, but it has a nice flat front. Also, because of this fabric, I needed a lining. So I had a dress, a white dress that, I wore many, many moons ago that no longer fit. And I just pulled the lining out of that so that I could add a lining in here. I also added pockets, and I didn't want just kind of side seam pockets because they can't handle the weight of a phone, which is basically what we're all carrying in our pockets these days. It just pulls down too much. I wanted the pockets to be anchored in the waistband. So basically I had to change the whole way that the waistband on this was done, which was fine. It worked out well the second time. The first time I did a crap job, and I was really frustrated because I didn't catch the front of the skirt all the way in the lining, and it was pulling out. But actually, I just not done a very good job with the sewing. It didn't look very neat. So I pulled the whole waistband out. I recut the waistband pieces. I shortened the elastic because it actually had ended up being a little bit too big. And then I, approached more carefully the waistband process, and it turned out much nicer this time. You can see it's nice and neat and straight stitching, and none of these gathers or anything are pulling out of there. And it has these nice sturdy side pockets, and those are not in the eyelet. They're just in another white fabric that I had. And then the last part is the reason I liked this skirt is that it had these little pleats. But ultimately, the instructions in this recipe, weren't very good. So I had to go to somewhere else to learn how to do the pleats. And it was actually fine. I wish I had started it up higher because I ended up not, having any extra fabric at the end. So instead of like two pleats with a little bit of skirt below, it just ends with the second pleat. And it's fine. I think it still looks cute. And it was a fun learning process. I would definitely make this again. It's, so like basically what you're getting from this recipe is rough dimensions for cutting the squares for your skirt, or rectangles for your skirt. And then the rest, so the pattern would have you sew like the waistband and the skirt all the way down the side and then like fold it over. But since I wanted to anchor the pockets in the waistband, I couldn't do that. So I just ended up doing, the whole thing differently and basically used very little of the recipe other than the measurements. But it turned out really cute and I am very happy with it. I haven't had a chance to wear it yet, and summer is coming to an end. So I'm recording this on Thursday, August 31, 30, 20, 28th. And this weekend is Labor Day, and then I am declaring it officially fall. So I probably won't be getting much use out of it, but we are having friends and family over for ribs in the smoker on Sunday, and I will wear it then. And I don't eat ribs, so I don't have to worry about making a mess of it. And that may be the only chance I get to wear it this year, but I do think it turned out well. And I was happy to use this fabric, which is really cute. I love a nice eyelet fabric. It's a very comfortable, so even if I don't get much wear out of it this year, I will hopefully get some wear out of it next year. And now I have started on some fall projects. So the first is just I am sewing myself kind of a plain white button down. The pattern is called Melilo or something like that from Deer and Doe, which I think is now part of Core Fabrics or Closet Core, I think. And it has like a hidden button placket, but other than that, it's just kind of a plain button down. I'm not even putting a pocket on it. I thought about it and I was like, those pockets are annoying. They don't hold anything, and I'm mostly making this to layer under things, so there's no need for a pocket. So I've got like the front and back kind of done sewn together, but now it's the tricky part, which is the sleeves and the collar. So that is my first fall project, and then we'll see. We'll see what comes next. All right, friends, that is pretty much all I have to tell you about today. I hope you'll join me next week because we will be talking about fall knitting plans, and that's everyone's favorite. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope you will give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday. If you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description box below to my pattern shop, some affiliate links for all of your yarn shopping needs, and my D-stash, as I said. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you soon in another